Hi, thanks for clicking on the video. I'm Wes.
This is Penny.
And we're going to talk about Penny's first time watching The Terminator. And we watched Terminator on physical media. Even though this is the crappy Blu-ray, I think, that came out in 2006. But we still watched it streaming. I can actually just read off the back of this. So, in 2029, giant supercomputers dominate the planet, hell-bent on exterminating the human race. And to destroy man's future by changing the past, they send an indestructible cyborg. A Terminator back in time to kill Sarah Connor, played by Linda Hamilton, the woman whose unborn son will become mankind's only hope. But can Sarah protect herself from this unstoppable menace to save the life of her unborn child, or the human race be extinguished by one mean hunk of metal? Quote unquote from the LA Herald Examiner. The Terminator, it exists in China, right?
Yes, but I've never seen it when I was in China.
Okay, so what's it called in China?
终结者. Yeah.
终结者.
No, that's not.
Okay, but you didn't know anything about it before we even watched it, because you kept asking me questions like, who's this?
I don't
What's
know.
going on? So, yes. But Arnold Schwarzenegger is pretty well known in China, right?
Yeah, I think so, because he is muscular. And we don't get a lot of muscular people back then.
Okay, so let's just go into your general thoughts on your initial viewing of The Terminator. And just to be clear, she hasn't seen any trailers. She didn't really know anything going in.
Which is what I prefer.
Yeah.
So hopefully in the future.
And that's why she keeps asking questions during the movie. But go ahead.
No trailer and no teaser. That's how I like it. Okay, unpopular opinion. Well, it's very hard to watch a movie. When was it made?
1984.
1984. Before my time. It's very hard to watch a movie before my time.
You gotta appreciate old media. The classics.
Well, you know how when you watch it for the first time, it's like a new story to you, it's a new idea, might be very innovative, you might have never seen something like that before.
I've seen it. Okay, I'll get into my opinion on Terminator and growing up with it, but I watched it much later.
Okay.
I just like Alien and Aliens, I watched Aliens first, not knowing anything about Alien, not even knowing it existed. And it's the same thing with Terminator. I watched Terminator 2 first, and then I knew the existence of the Terminator and watched it, and was kind of shocked, but I'm not going to go into it because you don't know anything about Terminator 2, and that's the next one we're going to watch. So if you want to see a video on that, like and subscribe. But I think the marketing on Terminator 2 ruined it for a lot of people. But yeah, go ahead. You said it's just too old for you.
It is too old for me. Which is probably gonna get attacked in the comments, so don't attack me.
Go ahead and attack her in the comments. I encourage it. Go ahead.
I don't know where to start. I mean, I guess, it's also my first time seeing him as an actor.
Who? Arnold Schwarzenegger?
Yeah.
Okay.
I cannot pronounce his name. It's too complicated for my tongue. The story is kind of...
Well, we'll get into it, okay?
Okay.
You weren't too crazy about the movie, obviously. So, I'll just give my opinion on Terminator. I didn't grow up watching Terminator. Actually, I watched Terminator 2 first, and it was marketed towards me. Like, I'm a 10-year-old kid when it came out. So, there's like all these toys. It's a big budget action movie, unlike The Terminator, which is a much smaller budgeted movie. And I just watched Terminator 2, and I just happened to watch the first Terminator at my cousin's house because his mom had it on VHS, and I was kind of shocked about how different it was from Terminator 2. But I don't want to go into it spoiling Terminator 2 for you, because that's one of the joys I get from showing you these movies for a long time, that we will, get to see, and you get the experience with fresh new eyes without any marketing. So let's talk about the story initially, okay? and you can give me your criticisms of that. But go ahead and give me your thoughts on just the story.
I feel like it's such a simple idea. You know how I ask you at the start of the movie, I'm like, who are they? Like, what time is this? Like, then you kind of explain to me because I didn't understand the text, I missed the details. So you basically explain the whole story within a few sentences of like, they came from the future when the future is a mess and they come back to try to prevent that mess from happening. If that's the idea.
Well, the machines send back a Terminator to kill his mom on the limited information they had on his background. So they knew where to find her at that time. Well, not where to find her because he's looking through a phone book. Of course, it's 1984. You can't just Google somebody. And they look for her and try to kill her before she even procreates. Before she even procreates to create John Connor. So that kills the leader of the human resistance, which when they send them back, it is when the humans have won the war. But that's their last-ditch effort to stop the humans winning the war, is to send back a Terminator, and then John Connor sends back Kyle Reese. And okay, so it's kind of,
I'm already falling asleep here.
God. Okay. You have to admit, like, the mindfuck of the looping timeline here, okay? So, John Connor, okay, with the knowledge that his father is younger than him, okay? So, John Connor is probably like this father figure to his own father, who's younger than him. He knows it's his father because she says at the end that she owes it to him to know who his father is. So he has to send him back in time. So basically, he gives him the photo because that's just what he has to do, because it's just like a loop almost, a time loop. So he can catch feelings for his mother because that's going to be his father, right? And he has to send back his father back in time to his death just so he can exist. Why are you shaking your head now?
None of this makes sense. Okay?
Well, it's just the time travel paradox. I mean, you just got to have it make sense, because time travel works in different movies in different ways.
No. Okay. So, the time travel logic here is such a turn off for me, and immediately dropped like 2 stars off for this movie. God. Because, okay, you said time travel exists in so many ways, which I agree, right? Because we've already watched so many Marvel time travel movies where it can be one single line, it can be multiple parallel world, right? But the movie itself, if it wants to stick with that logic, you have to make it make sense for your audience, right? It's not the audience trying to persuade themselves that, this must work like this, right? And I think the most important element in time traveling is that you cannot go back in time and do anything that will change, that be so significant that will change the future.
Yeah, that's kind of a, without giving too much away, that is sort of a storyline in the second movie. So, yeah, I mean, I think it's just like fascinating. He has to send his he realizes it's his father and it's younger than him. He has to send him to his death. So just so he can exist, and you cannot tell him that he's his father, and he just has to have it occur naturally. But let's move on from that, because it's kind of explored that aspect of it in one of the future sequels, which was a little disappointing, to be honest. It's called Terminator Salvation, and that's the one aspect I was looking forward to.
The salvation of logic of time traveling.
Yeah. So what did you think of like the cat and mouse chase of the story, though? Just like taking the time travel aspect out of it.
Yeah, I can be fair. I mean, especially like the time traveling logic didn't exist until almost the very end. I mean, the first half first half of the movie that you're seeing is kind of just to go with the cat and mouse chase, which I think it was kind of interesting. I am not gonna exaggerate how amazing it was, because it really wasn't for me. I mean, yeah, I'm not blaming this movie being old, but even when I grow up, in a lot of Jackie Chan's action movie, there were a lot of mouse and cat chase, and those are more entertaining for me. So watching those, I'm not saying that it's bad. I mean, it was still kind of fun to see where it goes.
It's sort of like just seeing it in my eyes now. It is much more like a horror movie almost, in the way that it's presented compared to the sequels. Like, the sequels are all out action movies, and I think they're going back to their roots because Netflix is coming out with a anime. I think it's a series, and it's going back to those horror roots of the first one. But it's kind of, well, let me make one point here. It's like there was a scene where he's chasing them in the cop car, and they crash. He crashes, and the cops get both Kyle Reese and Sarah Connor, and then he just disappears. It's like Michael Myers. But if that happened now, I would see like the Terminator just like slaughtering all the cops, because that's the logic of the other Terminator movies. But this is much more like it's a sort of a noir. It's sort of a horror movie also, because he's like cutting up his own face and cutting up his arm. A little bit of gore there, but it's much less action oriented than the sequels, but it still has a lot of action for how small of a budget it has. But what were you raising your hand for?
I don't understand. If he is a robot, and obviously not a robot, there's a word
a cyborg, a cybernetic organism.
A machine? Like a robot?
Not a robot. Cyborg. Cybernetic organism.
Yes. If he is that, and he doesn't get killed easily, right? So there is nothing for him to be afraid of. And obviously he is from the future, so nobody really know like what's the whole power behind him. Nobody even understand at this point. So what's with all the, even disappeared? What's with, like, why do you have to wear sunglasses to cover up your eye? Hey, nobody.
Well, he's supposed to be discreet, and well, you cast Arnold Schwarzenegger with the Austrian accent as like a discreet, like undercover cyborg going after Sarah Connor, so he can like mix in there with everyone else. He can't go out there with a robot eye poking out, and it's like, do you have Sarah Connor? And let him in, and then of course he says, I'll be back, and crashes the car through there. But you can't have like a robot skeleton just walking amongst everybody, because it's just he's trying to get all the information he can and just whack her basically. So
okay, I'll give you that.
Michael Biehn he's like one of my favorite actors, which I'm kind of disappointed they didn't even mention Kyle Reese. He plays Kyle Reese. Oh. And I'm a little disappointed they even like mention him on the back of this. and he's one of my favorite actors. He's in this. He's in Aliens. He's in a lot of James Cameron movies. Tombstone. He's still acting and everything. But what did you think of the acting?
It was decent. I think it was decent. Other than him trying to be a robot, well, which was pretty good. I mean,
there was a scene where he's in the police car looking for them, and I guess he makes this choice to move his eyes first and then his head, like a surveillance camera.
Yeah, I think there are definitely like small details like that he intentionally to perform like he is not a human, right? Mm-hmm. Which was pretty good, and the actress, it was pretty good too, right?
Linda Hamilton, yeah, she's great in this. I even like even the cops, the two cops, is Paul Winfield and Lance Henriksen. They go this back and forth. It kind of adds a little bit of levity. I just think everything is, acting wise, is great in this.
That coffee's 2 hours cold. Mm-hmm. I put a cigarette out in it.
Did you know Lance Henriksen? He was the white cop. You know, he was originally cast to play the Terminator.
No.
Could you see that?
No.
Well, I think he would be more discreet than a bodybuilding Austrian, but I mean, it's an iconic role, and this is the breakout role for Arnold Schwarzenegger.
And I think his physique, the way he looks, without the outfit and stuff, actually fit this character that they write.
I mean, intimidating, of course. So, yeah, like I just said, Michael Biehn. I think like one of my favorite scenes of his in all of his films is when he's explaining to Sarah Connor, like just trying to get through her head, like, this is a Terminator. He's not gonna stop. He's gonna kill you, or he's gonna keep hunting you until you're dead. And it's just like one of the most impassionate, like
It's like it all happened in the car while they're driving.
Yeah, it convinces her. It like his.
Like, oh, come back, you! Listen to me.
Yeah.
Listen to me explain this.
Just let me go.
Listen and understand that Terminator is out there. It can't be bargained with. It can't be reasoned with. It doesn't feel pity or remorse or fear. And it absolutely will not stop. Ever. Until you are dead.
So, like I said, this is James Cameron's one of his breakout movie, just like Arnold Schwarzenegger. And of course, he directed. You haven't seen The Abyss, but he directed Aliens like 2 years after this. And Aliens, by the way, is like my second favorite movie of all time.
What's the most favorite movie of all time?
Well, maybe I'll bring that up in a later video. But he directed that True Lies, but what you're familiar with is Titanic. It was the highest grossing movie of all time. Then he made Avatar, another highest grossing movie of all time, until it was knocked off his pedestal. And he very seldom makes movies, but now he's just all in on Avatar right now. But what did you think of the direction? Could you see like this small budget action horror noir movie? Do you see like the DNA of his future movies in that, like Titanic and Avatar? Those are the ones you've seen recently and still fresh in your mind.
I can't really. I mean, those are very different movies. If you are trying to compare the Terminator with Aliens or Alien, that I can't make a comparison. But if you're wanting me to compare an action movie with Titanic, which in my opinion is a very sophisticated, comprehensive story.
The Terminator isn't sophisticated?
No, there's big bugs in this logic, and I'm not I'm not here for it. And then even Avatar, when I first watched it, it was kind of like mind-blowing. You know, because at that time...
I mean, there is a lot of action in Titanic and Avatar, of course, but...
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, he definitely has this. I think you'll see it in his future movies because this is such a small budget compared to his other movies. So, yeah, you can definitely see it in Aliens. It's his next movie. He's got the same composer, James Horner. I think he uses James Horner in all of his movies. And you can definitely see it in Terminator 2. It's a much higher budget movie. But, yeah, I mean, you don't see much, I guess, in the direction in comparison because of the budgetary constraints.
Yeah, I think so. Especially when it comes to like a sci-fi or action-related laser beam and stuff. Like, I think the budget actually makes a huge difference, right?
Yeah.
On how the movie comes out, how it looks, some of the stuff.
So what did you think of, like, I know it's 1984, so you gotta, like, base it on, 1984 standards, okay? But, like, the special effects. Rough?
Okay, so...
a lot of it doesn't age well. Especially when he's... I mean, I'm sure it looked impressive at the time, but when he's like carving out his eye, you can just obviously tell it's like a puppet head, and then he dries off his face, and then it's back to Arnold Schwarzenegger. And
oh right, is there a part where you can actually see the makeup, the skin, the face that's like kind of glued?
Yeah,
his face? Was that intentional to be shown, or was
well,
it...
yeah, you're supposed to see his robot skin underneath it.
Because there was a quick 1 second or two, I'm like, wait, that's not what he looks like. And then like 2 seconds later, it's his face again. So I wasn't even sure.
Oh, are you talking about the eye carving thing? Yeah, it was a big puppet head. And it was like, it had a little bit of motion and stuff, and then it's a little trickery. But I do really appreciate in movies that in this time, the miniatures. I love miniatures in movies because I think it looks so much better than CGI. Like CGI ships, like those ships and the tanks in the future, they're miniatures. And I'm like a hardcore hashtag bring back miniatures to movies, please.
What does that mean? What's
like they'll have like miniatures. They did it in Star Wars and stuff, where they have like the miniature like the spaceships and stuff or big vehicles, and like shoot it like it's a large, and then have it scoped in the background.
Are you saying it's like one of that horror movies that you were watching? I don't think I was watching. Like they make teeny tiny human and like teeny tiny.
Yeah, it's kind of, you're talking about claymation, but yeah, it's similar in that way. But and I know it's like time consuming and stuff, and it's just easier to do CGI, but it just feels real. It doesn't look like made on a computer. It's something you can physically touch. But I always appreciate good miniatures, which the future scenes on this definitely had some great miniatures, and especially the explosion at the end with the semi truck. All right, so what rating do you give the Terminator?
Out of respect of this being a legendary movie.
Out of respect, just give your honest opinion out of 5 stars. Just honest opinion. Don't worry about anyone else's opinion.
For me personally, this is a 2 out of 5.
Ooh, jeez.
That was bad. But I mean, usually there has to be one element or two that really like entertain me or catch my eyes. I feel like after watching this movie, okay, the story wasn't complete, okay, and it would have made more sense if, I know this was only part of a bigger story. Like, who sent this man? What was like the bigger story, like the bigger background in the future of like how this all started? There was no explanation. Maybe it was explained in the second movie or the third.
Well, it just he says in the car that everything was run by machines, and the computer became sentient and saw humans as the biggest threat. So they decided, well, let's just kill all the humans then.
That to me is the director or the person who wrote the story just give you a presetting of, you know, does this what happened, and this is what needs to be done, and to kill all human, and then they zoom in for the story of like the one try to kill Sarah and the other one try to save it, and let alone like at the end the time traveling thing really turned me off and didn't make sense for me. I'm gonna say there are parts like, you know, how, you know, the photo get burned in the fire, and at the end it was, oh, actually a kid took a picture of her.
Yeah.
So there is connection, which, you know, didn't make it so bad. But you can't really argue with, you know, how he went back to history and made something so significant, made a human, which in the future sent him back to the history. It sounds like a big loop for me.
Yeah, it's time travel.
That is okay. I understand time doesn't have to be linear, but it cannot be a loop. I don't think that, at least that's not how it can work in my brain. Like, I cannot personally persuade myself.
Yeah, some people cannot suspend their disbelief of time travel, which I can understand. But I find it real fascinating. Thing. But yeah, I guess you're just not much of a fan of the Terminator, huh?
Yeah, I think I don't regret watching it because obviously it is a legendary story, a franchise, and I think. And it wasn't too long, right? A little bit over an hour, less than 2 hours. And just watching that, I understood the idea of what they were trying to do.
Yeah, it's under 2 hours, so.
And it's just, you know, good to know what it actually is. But it's not like, hey, Wes, that movie was so good, I want to watch it again. Like Titanic, okay? You know, if that was a much longer movie, but...
Okay.
You know. Yeah. 2 out of 5 might be very harsh, but it's very personal.
If that's your honest opinion, then okay.
It really is.
I will give, you know, seeing the Terminator in 2024 eyes, I'm gonna give it 4 out of 5 stars. I think it's great. Like, it's with such a small budget, he did some great action set pieces, and I think it's kind of held back by some of the dated special effects, but yeah, I think it's great. But you know, in comparison to like the sequel 7 years later, that it really does pale in comparison to that, I believe. But 4 out of 5, I think it's a classic, and you know, I think you should have watched it, and I definitely think you should watch Terminator 2. Are you open to watching Terminator 2?
Yeah, I am. But if I come back with another 2 out of 5, please don't attack me.
So one of the satisfying things about showing you these movies is like you just have no idea. The marketing doesn't ruin it for you. So I want your what you think that. What Terminator 2 is going to be about. Like, how do you see, after just watching the Terminator, not knowing anything else about the franchise, how do you think, what kind of story elements or whatever, just wild guess, that you would predict in the next Terminator movie?
Okay, so obviously at the end of this movie, Sarah was pregnant, right? So will it go into the birth of the legend John Connor, and how he become Reese's god in the future, and who was this other evil party that sent the Terminator to kill Sarah Connor. So maybe it can expand a little bit onto that part, because those are all answered questions from the first movie. So that's my guess.
Okay, I guess we'll find out, and make sure to hit like, make a comment, complain about her rating of the Terminator, please do that. And then hit subscribe if you want to see her watch new movies, well, you know, new to her at least, and especially the next one is Terminator 2, so we'll see how brutal she is with that one. So but thanks for watching. Bye.